Have you ever encountered someone who refuses to see the truth? Someone who repeats the same mistakes over and over, never learning, never growing? Or worse, have you ever wondered if you might be making those same mistakes without even realizing it? Today, we're breaking down 6 clear signs of a foolish person, according to the wisdom of the Stoics. And here's the thing, stupidity has nothing to do with intelligence. A person can have a high IQ and still be foolish if they lack self-awareness, discipline, and wisdom. So, if you recognize any of these traits in yourself, don't take it personally. Take it as a wake-up call. Let's dive in. Sign number 1. They refuse to learn. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." If you believe you already know everything, why would you listen? Why would you change? Why would you grow? A foolish person is closed-minded. They reject new ideas, dismiss advice, and refuse to listen because they think they've got it all figured out. Imagine someone at the gym using poor form. When corrected, they scoff and ignore the advice. Months later, they're injured and blaming everything but themselves. Stupidity isn't just ignorance, it's arrogance. Even Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, wrote in his journal, "If anyone can prove me wrong, I will gladly change my ways, for I seek the truth." Are you willing to do the same? Sign number 2. They get offended easily. Have you ever met someone who flies into a rage at the smallest criticism? They explode when someone disagrees with them or sulk when things don't go their way. Seneca said, "A man is as miserable as he thinks himself to be." A foolish person takes everything personally, reacting emotionally instead of logically. Think about social media. How many people waste their energy getting triggered by random comments? Imagine how much they could accomplish if they redirected that energy into something meaningful. Instead of seeing criticism as an attack, wise people see it as a chance to improve. The Stoics believed in developing a thick skin. If someone insults you, ask yourself, does this really matter? Most of the time, it doesn't. Sign number 3. They chase pleasure over purpose. Seneca put it best, "The fool's life is empty of gratitude and full of fears. Its course lies wholly toward the future." A foolish person is addicted to pleasure. They live for cheap dopamine, endlessly scrolling on their phone, binge-watching TV, overeating, drinking excessively, or chasing meaningless relationships. They avoid anything that requires effort, discipline, or long-term thinking. The problem is that pleasure doesn't lead to happiness, it leads to regret. Have you ever wasted an entire day on distractions and then felt worse afterward? That's because real fulfillment doesn't come from pleasure, it comes from progress. The things that truly matter, building skills, mastering discipline, strengthening relationships, require effort, but they lead to real, lasting happiness. The Stoics understood that pleasure is fleeting, but meaning lasts. Epictetus emphasized that true freedom comes from mastering desires rather than being enslaved by them. When you constantly chase pleasure, you become a prisoner to your own impulses. Instead of instant gratification, wise individuals invest in long-term fulfillment, whether that's through learning, self-improvement, or meaningful connections. Next time you're tempted by mindless pleasure, ask yourself, is this making me better, or is it just numbing me? A life dedicated to purpose rather than indulgence is the path to true happiness. Sign number 4. They blame others for their problems. A foolish person never takes responsibility for their actions. If they fail a test, they blame the teacher for making it too difficult instead of recognizing their lack of preparation. If they don't get the job, they insist the hiring process was unfair rather than considering how they could improve their skills. If they lose money, they blame the system, the government, or bad luck rather than reflecting on their own poor financial decisions. This victim mentality keeps them trapped, never progressing, never growing. Epictetus warned against this mindset, saying, "You are not disturbed by things, but by the view you take of them." In other words, events themselves are neutral. It's our perception of them that determines their impact. A wise person understands this and takes responsibility for how they react to setbacks. They understand that life is unpredictable and failure is a part of growth. Instead of making excuses, they focus on what they can control. Consider 2 people who both lose their jobs. The foolish person blames the economy, their boss, or external forces beyond their control. They spend months complaining, waiting for something to magically improve. Meanwhile, the wise person takes ownership of their situation. They reflect on their performance, identify areas for growth, learn new skills, and actively seek new opportunities. One remains stuck in self-pity, while the other emerges stronger and more capable. Taking responsibility isn't about blaming yourself for everything, it's about empowering yourself to make a change. Even if a situation isn't your fault, make it your problem to solve. That is the path to wisdom. Sign number 5. They talk more than they think. Have you ever met someone who just loves to hear themselves talk? They interrupt, dominate conversations, and act like they know everything, but the truth is, they rarely say anything useful. Marcus Aurelius said, "Better to trip with the feet than the tongue." Wise people know that words have power. They think before they speak, they listen more than they talk, and when they do speak, they make it count. Think about the loudest people in the room. Are they the wisest, or are they the most insecure? The more someone talks without thinking, the more foolish they reveal themselves to be. Before you open your mouth, ask yourself, is this necessary? Is this helpful? If not, stay silent. Sign number 6. They fear change. A foolish person clings to the past. They resist new ideas, new experiences, and new challenges. They'd rather stay stuck in a miserable situation than face the discomfort of growth. But life is always changing, nothing stays the same. Epictetus compared life to a game of dice. You cannot control the pieces you are given, but you can control how you play them. Think about someone who stays in a terrible job or a toxic relationship just because they're scared of the unknown. They complain every day but refuse to change. That's foolishness in action. The Stoics believed in a more fatty love of fate. Instead of fearing the unknown, welcome it. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow stronger. A foolish person refuses to learn, gets offended easily, chases pleasure over purpose, blames others for their problems, talks more than they think, and fears change. Stupidity isn't about intelligence, it's about behavior. The good news, you can change. The first step is awareness. The second step is action. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. If this video gave you something to think about, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who could use some Stoic wisdom. And if you're ready to take control of your life, hit the like button and subscribe for more. Until next time, stay Stoic.